Hey, this is Coach Boyson. In this very quick screencast, I want to show you a dihybrid cross. And so in a previous screencast, we talked about Mendel and his genetics and his studies, and we did what we called monohybrid crosses, where we dealt with one trait that had two forms of the gene, or two alleles. When we do a dihybrid cross, our Punnett square gets a little bigger. It goes from 4 boxes to 16. And the reason for that is a dihybrid cross is just looking at two traits at the same time and how they interact together. So in this case, if we look up here, we actually have shape as being one of our traits, and it comes in two forms, round or wrinkled. Obviously, you can tell round is dominant here over wrinkled. And then we also have color is another trait. So we're looking at two traits here, and yellow is dominant over the recessive, which is green. And so when you come over here and you look at a genotype for a dihybrid cross, you're going to notice there's 4 alleles. Remember, I told you can have 2 alleles for each trait because you get one from mom, one from dad. And so the same thing applies here. This is really no different than our monohybrid crosses. It's no more difficult. It just looks bigger and more difficult. And so let's look over here real closely. You can see our two parents. Parent number 1 is heterozygous for shape, but it is round. It has the dominant for round and then a recessive that controls wrinkled, but it is round. And then it is heterozygous as well for the color, which means it's yellow, but it's heterozygous. It's carrying that gene or allele for green. The other parent is the same as well. And so all you have is you have this larger genotype is consisting of essentially just 2 genotypes for 2 different traits. We have the genotype for shape, and then here's our 2 alleles for color. And so to plug this into let me broaden out just a little bit, to plug these possibilities across the top, we still do it the same. And so parent number 1, so let me go back over here. So this is parent number 1. We've got to put the possible alleles it could pass down to its offspring back across the top of our Punnett square, just like we did before with our monohybrid cross. So how do I figure out what these possibilities are here at the top? Well, let's come back over here to the left. What I'm going to do is, to do this, is I got to take the first possible allele, which is this R here. And let me just write this a little bigger down here. That way you can see it a little better. All right, so I don't make a mess of that. All right, so we got to take this first possible allele for one of our traits, so in this case shape, and I got to combine it with the first allele here for color. So that's my first possibility. So I combine it with this one first, and you can see, come up here to the top, what's the first possibility? Big R, big Y. All right, the next possibility is going to be, I'm going to take this big R and I combine it with the second Y. And so if you go up here to the top, what do they have for the next one? They have a big R with a little y. In my next box, I got to take my second R and I got to combine it with the first Y. So the first possible color allele. So I should have a little r with a big Y. If I come up here, what do we have? We have a little r with a big Y. And then I got to take my second R and combine it with my second Y. And so I'm going to have, if we go up to the right, we should have a little r with a little y. Now, I'll do that for every single one of my possibilities. And that goes for even if my possibilities are the same. That's what I got to do. And so for both parents, they just both turned out to be the same. And so what you do is once you've set up your possibilities for one parent across the top and one down the side, now you just drag and drop like you did before, and then you have your possible, each box represents a possible outcome that could occur. And rather than each box being worth 25%, because we have 16, each box carries a weight of 6.25%. All right, and so we would just add up the number of boxes that got the result we wanted and then go from there. So let's do one example together. All right, so here's parent number 1. We need to take the possibilities from this parent and we need to put them across the top. So what's our first one? We're going to take this first R with that first Y. So we're going to have a big R with a big Y. We're going to take the first R with the second Y. So we're going to have a big R with a little y. We're going to take the second R with the first Y, which is big R with a big Y. Now you'll notice that possibility is the same as our first one. That's fine. We still got to do it. And then we're going to take the second R with the second Y. So we're going to have big R, little y. Let's take this other parent. Let's put them down this side. Well, this one's pretty easy. First R with the first Y is going to be little r, little y. First R with the second Y, also little r, little y. All my possibilities are going to be little r, little y. All right, so now it's just a matter of dragging and dropping. Now, if you look down here in the bottom right, this is what my question is asking me here. So these are my two parents. And then the question I want to find is, what's the probability from these two parents that we end up with an offspring that's going to be round and green? So we had to set up our top first. We're going to drag and drop, and then we can answer that question. So let's drag this R all the way down, just like we did in our old Punnett squares, our little monohybrid crosses. So every box below here is going to have those. Let's take our R's here, and we got to drag them across. So I'm going to drag this R to here. And you notice I like to do one genotype at a time. So this little R is coming across. Now we're going to take this Y, and we're dragging it down. All right. And then we're going to drag the little Y's across. And obviously we do this for every box, but to save time, I'm not going to fill in all those by hand. All right, and across. All right, and one helpful tip, you'll notice Y's kind of look the same, whether they're capital or whether they're lowercase. What I like to do sometimes with letters that do that is I like to underline the recessive just so I know that that's the recessive allele. And so to save time, let's go ahead and fill in the rest. Once you have your box filled in and you've dragged and dropped, now you just analyze. And so what I have here is I'm looking for the ones that are round and green because I want to be able to predict the probability of that outcome. So these are the possible offspring that will result from those parents. And so if we look at this first set of boxes, they're all the same. And so this one's going to produce a round and yellow offspring. So those aren't what we're looking for. All right. How about this one here? We're going to get round and green. Good. That's the one we're looking for. So this one, all of these here are going to be round and green. So all of those boxes are producing the outcome that we're trying to find. These are all going to be round, yellow, round, yellow, round, yellow. Those are all round and yellow. And then here we got round with green, round with green. And so these boxes are all round with green as well. So what's the probability we ended up with round and green offspring from this cross of these two parents? Well, it was 8 boxes out of the 16, which comes out to 50%. Remember, each box carries the weight of 6.25%. So that was just a dihybrid cross. It's no different than doing a monohybrid. We're just doing it for 2 traits instead of 1. And so I'm Coach Boyston. Hopefully that was helpful. You guys have a good day.